When Toyota launches a new car, generally a lot of interest is generated because, well, it's a Toyota. But when Toyota launched the Raize earlier this year, a lot of people were curious and interested. And I think a lot of people also thought it's a good car because I see a lot of them on the road nowadays. But I just had to find out for myself, just like the Veloz, is the Toyota Raize all hype or is it worth it? Let's find out. So obviously we have to start with the way it looks, and I have to say that Toyota achieved something that's not easily achievable by any brand, regardless of who they are, which is, I think the Raize is one of the most gender neutral looking cars out there. It appeals to probably both male and females, and I think that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not bland. It certainly has a lot of design characteristics to make it stand out and not look like anything else on the road, but at the same time it's not too over the top. But what I like the most about the Raize is that they didn't try to make it look too macho or aggressive, because it is really a compact crossover. So I like that it's still, to me personally, I think the Raize looks cute. Not cute in the sense that, you know, like it's soft or what or anything like that, but I like the way it looks. It's cute. It fits the overall, how do I say this, the overall segment that the Raize is trying to compete in. So let's talk about what you get up front. You get LED headlights, you get LED DRLs, but sadly the fog lights are halogen. It's not really a big deal, but other than that, you have these nice blacked out features here under the hood and this nice grille. Now moving on to the side, the Raize gets 16-inch alloy wheels. You get blacked out side mirrors, and actually from this point of view you can see that this Raize comes in a two-tone finish, red and black over at the top. The turn light indicators are over here, and if you're the type of person that likes chrome, you get some chrome on the door handles. I personally don't like them, but again, if you like them, they're there. And lastly, you have a smart entry system. Over at the rear, you get LED taillights, a spoiler with a third brake light, and a shark's fin antenna. Other than that, nothing really else to talk about or write home about. Well, okay, before I forget, you actually have the camera here for the backup camera. So now it's time to find out how the Toyota Raize drives. This again is the 1.2G, the top of the line non-turbo version. It has a 1.2 liter naturally aspirated gasoline engine that puts out 88 PS and 113 Newton meters of torque. And if you think about it, really, those are really small figures, and I thought that it was going to feel that way. But to be quite honest, it doesn't feel like it's having a hard time getting itself going at all in the city. It's not sluggish. Right now we're on the highway and it's perfectly fine. It's cruising along 80 perfectly okay, and then you can get it up to like 100 safely, no problem whatsoever. And that's also taking into account, obviously, that if you load it up with more people, it might get a little bit slower, it might have a harder time. But any car is like that. But I can't complain about the powertrain. I thought I was going to say that it was going to feel underpowered, but it doesn't feel that way at all. But there is possibly a way to get it, you know, to feel faster. There is a power mode. It's here on the right hand side of the steering wheel that, you know, it helps the car feel more responsive. It honestly doesn't feel like it's doing much, but it's there nonetheless, maybe to help you do overtaking. In terms of safety, since this is a budget economy crossover, you don't get much. You don't even get any Toyota safety sense features, except, well, I guess the backup camera and the backup sensors. But other than that, you have standard ABS, traction control, and dual airbags. But now I'd like to talk about the ride and the handling. I commented when I was shooting the Veloz review that it was quite harsh, and since the Raize and the Veloz are technically siblings through the Daihatsu Toyota partnership, I thought that was going to be the case here. But I'm surprised that this ride's actually pretty good. Like, even in the city over terrible road conditions, it's perfectly fine. Like, not crashing, it's not bouncy, it holds it up really well. There's no problem in the ride whatsoever. Even the way it drives, I like that the steering is weighted and it's not super duper light. It's not super assisted. It gives you more confidence in feel when you're turning the wheel. But at the same time, it's not too heavy that it's hard to maneuver or park. But moving on, it's time to talk about the fuel economy, which I think is the best part about the powertrain. So this has a CVT transmission, and given that it has a small displacement engine and not much power, you would think that it'll drink fuel just to be able to keep up and do highway speeds. But in the city, the past 2 days that I've had it, in heavy traffic, I was surprised that the Raize was doing around 10 kilometers per liter in heavy traffic. That's, for me, that's crazy, because that's not normal for other cars. Like, I personally have a Vios and it doesn't do that, and it has a bigger engine and it's probably lighter. But anyway, yeah, in the city the Raize does 10 kilometers per liter. Now, amazingly, on the highway right now, what we're doing, it's telling me 21.6 kilometers per liter. Actually, a while ago we got it to as high as about 25 kilometers per liter, and that's doing around 100 kilometers per hour. So it's amazing how frugal this car is in terms of how it consumes its fuel. In fact, the past 2 days that I've been driving it in the city, going from my house to the office and doing other errands, it didn't even drop 1 bar of fuel. Only now, today, on the highway, did it drop 1 bar, just 1 bar. And lastly, I thought that this would at least have a 40-liter tank. Most small economy vehicles do. I was surprised to find out it has an even smaller tank. It only has a 36-liter tank. So that's amazing. But to sum it all up, I have no problem with the Raize. I think it's fine in terms of driving, and the ride is fine. But the most important thing is, in terms of fuel economy, especially now in this climate with the fuel prices, it's amazing. So what do you get inside the Toyota Raize 1.2G? This is the top of the line non-turbo variant, so you would expect to get some pretty decent creature comforts, which it does have. I was surprised that the steering wheel was actually finished in this nice leather material. I'm not really sure if it's real leather or synthetic leather, but nonetheless it's soft, and the stitching is actually real. It's not fake stitching, it's real cloth stitching. So it's nice to hold, and it's nice to, you know, maneuver and stuff like that. And in front of me is a 7-inch multi-informational screen, which I was not expecting at all. Honestly, I thought it was going to be a normal analog cluster, but it's not. So what I like about this digital cluster is, despite the fact that it's digital, it's not confusing to understand. I find that to be a problem in most new cars nowadays, wherein they put so many design elements and you can't read the speed anymore or how many revs you're doing. It's nice to know in the Toyota Raize that it's legible and very easy to understand. The steering wheel has some buttons. So here on the left side is your controls for the screen over here, and the volume. Over here is to change the music for the infotainment screen, and the power button. Power button not for the infotainment, but rather for the car itself. And the screen is a 8-inch touchscreen. It has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so that's a plus obviously for anybody who's buying a car. You have also a automatic climate control system, which again I wasn't expecting personally, because this is a budget crossover, but it's there nonetheless. It's not dual zone, it's only single zone, but still it's automatic climate control. Who would complain about that? You have your USB port here, 12-volt socket here, your gear lever, and your handbrake. And the cup holders are actually here below the aircon, which I think is, for me personally, one of my favorite features about the interior, because it's so easy to reach and put back. You don't have to take your eyes off the road, it's just right there. And because the aircon is right there, if you have a cold drink, your cold drink will stay cool. So that's basically it. I mean, again, it's a basic interior, and it's a economy crossover. So you have a few surprises, like I said, the nice touches that Toyota put in the Raize, but nothing really stands out. So those are the great things. Now I have to talk about the things that I'm not too keen about. For me, it's the material they use for the main dashboard panel. I mean, I understand that there's a need to cut back on prices because you're trying to reach a certain SRP, but there are better affordable plastics to use than this one. It's glaring. I'm sorry, but it's obvious that they use the budget material, and that's the only downside to the whole experience actually with the Raize. Because sometimes, because this is a 3-cylinder engine, so when you're idling, it vibrates, and this center part, like the screen and over here behind the screen, it vibrates sometimes, and it's just something you don't want to see. Unfortunately, I try to look past it, but you see it, and you know, it distracts you, and it kind of makes you feel like, ooh, they could have really done better. But other than that, there's nothing wrong with it. It has all the things you could possibly want as a new car buyer. But if you're particular about refinement and quality, that this panel and this might be a problem for you. But overall, nothing to complain about. Now that we've stopped safely, I can go through the multi-informational display more and talk to you about the certain features that it has. It's just not there to display certain information, but you can actually change the screen a little bit, the middle part of the screen. So now there's a clock. If you don't want to see anything at all, there's that. Vehicle messages, obviously, to tell you maybe if you have an upcoming service coming up. And then of course there you also have the settings for the screen itself, so you can change the display brightness, the time and date, and there are even designs, so you can change the design of the gauge. And that, again, that's pretty cool for something just like the Raize. You know, it's supposed to be priced as a competitive economy crossover, but it's a nice touch. Then you can do the display settings. Next up is the notification day settings, which you think, what is that? Then upon further investigation, the car can actually tell you if it's the birthday of somebody important, or an anniversary, or car maintenance day, or car inspection day. So the fact that Toyota put that in something like the Raize is a big deal. They wanted it to be a more wholesome experience, I guess. Something it's just not a car, it's just not a tool. It's something that, you know, it's more intuitive. It can remind you of certain things. You know, these are things that you would normally find in a cell phone, but Toyota chose to put it here in the Raize. And another interesting thing that I found was the maintenance settings. So you can turn on when the car will tell you if it's time to change your oil, even change the oil filter, and more interestingly, tire rotation timing notice. So it will also tell you when it's time to rotate your tires, which is, I have to point out, something you don't normally find in most cars above the Raize's price point. So what you're getting really here is something very cool. I think Toyota did a good job of putting things that not everybody thought they needed but would gladly have. So yeah, I'm surprised, pleasantly surprised, that the Raize has all those certain features here, and I have nothing else to say but yeah, good job Toyota. That's something anybody would be glad to have. Now, all throughout this video, I've been mentioning that I've been surprised by a lot of the certain features that are standard in the Toyota Raize 1.2G CVT. That's because of the price, which I'm going to say now. This car retails for 926,000 pesos. Now, if you think about it, that's significant because psychologically, when you hear something is less than $1 million, that goes a long way into thinking that's very affordable. But again, that's what makes the Raize a good car. It comes with a lot of standard equipment without much compromise, really. I did mention some things I'd like them to improve in terms of refinement, but this is a new car that can come somewhere down the line. But as it is now, the Toyota Raize is a good car for anybody who's looking to upgrade from a small sedan to get something bigger for yourself or maybe the family. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel below, and also don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. This has been Pablo Salapantan of YugaAuto. Thank you for watching. Paalam!